It is day who gives a damn of the shutdown. The important part is that after one day it was too long, but now most of us are 2 paychecks behind, and it turns out most of our mortgage lenders 2 paychecks. Yeah, I'm 2 paychecks behind, and the first 3 days of October, which were part of a previous pay period.
Okay.
But what's worse is that nobody's lenders fucking care.
No,
you would think like, well, you know, it's what is it, 360 months for a 30-year mortgage? Like, hey man, just hook it up with 2 months on the back end. Give me a 2-month waiver.
Like
they're like,
oh, our lenders do. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, they're like, hey, you could get a forbearance. I'm like, oh, what's that? And they're like, oh, well, you just don't pay this month, but you have to have it paid by next month. I'm like, oh, so I don't have money now, but you want twice as much money next month. I'm like, yeah. I'm like, okay, it's not gonna work for me. Can't I just like have it put on the back end?
They lent you all the money, so they want their money.
They want their money. Yeah. And I was like, well, is there a way to get it on the back end? And they're like, there's not like a non-credit hurting way to do that. No. And I was like, but it's your money. Like, you just make the decision. And they're like, yeah, we can't do that. I'm like, well, it's not like it's set in stone. There are no rules. Just do whatever the fuck you want to. Like, yeah, stop calling. But what was really great,
please stop calling.
The best part though so far is so because we're shut down, allegedly we're getting paid.
Nope.
We're just not like jumping to, you know, when they're like, hey, there's work to do. Like, all right, cool. Like, we'll get to it when we get to it. Because like I do all maintenance. What happens when I run out of parts? Like, I'm just supposed to keep doing maintenance. So we're like, yeah, you know, we'll do the important stuff. You know, we'll do the stuff that gets things going. But I'm just not really inclined to do a whole lot like really fast. But the other day was great. Shout out to Ryan for getting us a new satellite so we could watch TV in the break room. Somebody comes in and is like, hey, this needs to get taken care of. And one of my coworkers is like, would you shut the fuck up? You're interrupting the young and the restless.
Oh my God. You guys, so this is a government job. You're telling me this is what this is. This is a government job is like.
Listen, there are 13,297 episodes and we're behind. Okay. So we're trying to catch up.
Fair enough.
I can only do so much work before I run out of parts and patience.
Wait, 13,295 episodes of what?
97. Young and the Restless. It's been on since 1975.
I hate that you know that exact number. That is disgusting.
I looked it up for this sketch. I looked it up just for this. Yeah.
That's so stupid.
I know that. Yeah. So, yeah,
all
that's
right.
what's going on in
well,
my
Hugh,
work.
why don't you introduce our guest this time instead of having me do it?
I will. Thank you. All right. So, Manny is coming from VetPhoenix. Manny, you are a Navy veteran. And you provide just some fantastic legal services to veterans that are getting jammed up in the legal system. Is that right? Is that a good way of putting it?
So we are a nonprofit that provides hope to veterans who have been impacted by incarceration. One of the small components is we refer them out to some kick-ass lawyers who do the legal work. But for us, our whole stick is that we're a bunch of guys who messed up, and we want to just give you the opportunity to see hope because everybody at VetPhoenix is formerly incarcerated.
Oh, really?
Oh, wow. So the whole crew over there is former. Wow, that's awesome.
Dude, all right. So, Manny, tell us a little bit about your time in the service.
Yeah, so I joined the Navy out of Tucson, Arizona. Figured why the Navy? It's the farthest from the desert. Wasn't a fan of my mom, wasn't a fan of my dad. So I was like, let's join the Navy. And I originally joined as a hospital corpsman, but me and my brother got in this fight about 3 days before I hit MEPS. And then my recruiter was like, well, I'm going to save you, but you're not going to be a hospital corpsman. So I went in as a quartermaster, and I served on the USS Peleliu as a quartermaster. And then we went on this humanitarian deployment. Y'all know the LHAs. You guys are Navy guys, but
yeah.
We had a humanitarian deployment called the Peleliu Pacific Partnership.
Okay.
Where all like the junior enlisted, they had to be like in combat cargo. See, you know, you being a CB, like it was all these junior sailors responsible for all the construction equipment of the CBs, making sure we tied it down, making sure that we took care of all the pallets. Because usually the Marine Corps does this, but this was a
if it's humanitarian, you usually got some CBs on board, making sure that the pallets of the gear or whatever you're bringing is getting loaded and unloaded properly.
Yeah, we had like 4 CBs and like 2 or 3 Marines that like pretty much led us and showed us how to chalk and chain all this equipment. So it was pretty cool experience. But from that, we had a lot of time on the ship, and I started talking to the legal men on board, and somehow I got myself transferred over to the legal department, and I converted to being a legal man in the Navy. As you know, Billy, you have to be an E5. Oh, well, back then it was E4 above to be a legal man. So ended up.
Yeah, that's just like MAs used to back in the day. You had to be an E5 or above.
Yeah.
Yep.
So long story short is out of that wonderful Peleliu Pacific Partnership deployment, I got a great gift called tuberculosis.
If you don't laugh, it just seems mean.
Yeah, got a great. That was great.
It's called scrofulous. So we got back from that deployment. I lived off base. I was married, and one day I woke up and my wife was like, "What the hell's on your neck?" And I had this big old golf ball, and turned out
not the tumor.
Yeah, it's not the tumor. That was a rough time, man. Navy medicine doesn't play around, but so went to Balboa, spent like 9 months trying to figure out what it was. Got kind of, obviously I'm on limited duty. The ship's preparing to go on another deployment, because technically that humanitarian one wasn't a real deployment, so we had to go on a real deployment.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah. First you got tuberculosis, then you got super tuberculosis.
Yeah,
yeah.
So I get stationed. I get kicked off the ship, because of this whole medical stuff. They put me in the region legal service office working on court-martial appeals. So got to learn more about the legal field. Nice. It was a pretty cool experience, working on some of the craziest cases in the military. And
I can only imagine.
Yeah. So that was a little bit of the Navy. I couldn't get over that tuberculosis. As you guys know, being Navy guys, I'll say this as all being Navy guys. The guys that go on limb and skate out of deployments, they're usually called pussies, right? Like,
yeah,
absolutely.
But legitimately, like, I had tuberculosis, bro. I had like a real.
Yeah, no, I mean, I get it. Like, you're legitimately sick.
You're trying to go.
The rest of us,
these guys, like, oh man, my arachnophobia is acting up. I can't go on deployment.
Exactly. So, but like, the way I said it was, I was like a legitimate pussy, right? Because like, I still got all the bullshit from all the dudes, right? Like,
oh yeah,
got the worst jobs, and then especially working in the legal office, like, you're the most hated dude on the base,
yes.
right?
One of them.
So,
yes.
For me, I just couldn't really reintegrate back into the Navy. I just couldn't find myself again. I kind of tried to survive. Ended up going to Newport to actually going to A school for legal men, but I actually got addicted to the medications that they were giving me throughout those 9 months. Because they didn't know if it was tuberculosis. First they thought it was cancer. First they thought it was like some weird tropical disease. Like, it was just a big old mess, and it was very painful. So they gave me morphine, and they gave me a bunch of different meds. And for me, like, I come from a family with addiction. I was just popping those morphine pills and just out of it, having all these behavioral issues. And look, I was in the legal office, so I kind of was able to do my job pretty good because it didn't require a lot of effort. And because I was unlimited,
it's an office job. Let's call it what it is. It's an office job.
Wow, thanks, Billy. Hey man, I was a master of the pin, bro.
Look, man, fucking half of being an MA is sitting behind a desk. I was doing the same thing. Like,
dude, a stapler's a weapon.
That's right. I mean, it can be.
Yeah. But I tried to kind of, do the Navy thing, ended up getting stationed on the Lincoln in Everett, Washington. But was trying to figure out how to deal with my addiction. My genius idea was to go to a psychologist, talk about my problems. And they're like, well, I think, you kind of like have ADHD and you just don't know how to assimilate. Let's try like doing Adderall. And
okay. So we're going to give you another drug. Okay, cool.
So, and dude, like, morphine was cool, but Adderall was heaven, right? For me, like,
you had your uppers, your downers, and your levelers.
Yeah, like, hey, I could see sounds.
Yeah, dude, it was crazy. So yeah, that whole thing just threw me into like a meth-induced psychosis. Was having all these problems with my wife, and we were on a workup, right? Getting ready to go out to deployment. I have this luck, man. I just land on ships and I go on deployment. So I did 3 Westpacks in that part in 6 years, dude. Yeah, it was brutal.
Jeez.
The whole time when I was in San Diego, like, yeah, you're a paralegal, you're never gonna hit a ship, and don't worry about it. It's a shore kind of rate. Yeah, sure. First orders was to a carrier.
Yeah.
Like
nobody on the carrier, like 5,500 people are not going to have one legal problem.
Yeah. I was like, great. So I just couldn't get back into the mindset of the Navy. Me and my wife ended up going on leave before the deployment. She's from Mexico. We ended up going to Mexico. I was an E4. I had just passed the E5 test, but I was still like a kind of a frocked E5. And went to Mexico, and then on the way back, me and my wife got in a really bad argument, and cops got called, and my command got notified, and that just became a whole ordeal. Me being a paralegal, I kind of knew how to get around some of those laws. So NCIS get involved for like Article 92. It was kind of crazy, right? And they turned into just this big whole ordeal. Ended up going on deployment, but they actually sent me cranking for a year, dude, because I'm in the legal office. I can't be in the legal office while they're investigating me. So it's actually not a year, but I went cranking that whole deployment, dude. Like literally that whole deployment, I was cranking as a and for half of it, I was like a Frocty 5. And then went to NJP, got busted down to E3. That really hurt. That one hurt. Okay. And then because I was an E3, I was no longer eligible to be a legal man.
Yep. So now you got to get out of the rate.
So it was a whole mess. They tried to take me to board to like do an OTH. I ended up having an attorney in Bahrain who said like, look, let's figure out if we can just get you a general. And it took a few months, got it all deal. By the time literally we got back from deployment, and like 2 weeks later, like they said, have a nice day, move on, and no transition, no nothing. I really it was a really hard fight for them to take me to Captain's Mast because I pulled every trick in the book, right? But at the end of the day, I was just this broken kid, dude. I was this broken kid who was losing his dream. I was a kick-ass paralegal. I used to love the DRBs where they threw the chairs. You know how it is, old school style.
Oh, I'll say one thing. One part about being an MA is when you get to go do bailiff duty, right?
Yeah.
And I get to walk them in, and I remember we had this XO at one of my commands, and he loved, like, he would tell us, he's like, oh, I fucking love XOI. I'm like, why? He goes, because I like scaring the shit out of them. We had this kid, because when you go in there, you have to stand at attention, but you got to keep your hands open. Like you got to like have a knife hand on your side. You can't do the standard ball your fist up. So I'm standing right next to the kid, right? I'm looking right at him. I'm like, undo your fucking hands now. And he looks at me. He goes, what are you gonna do, motherfucker? And then the XO is like, hey, and he goes, I'll fucking kill you with the XO. And the XO looked at me and he goes, go for it. And I was just like, welcome to Thunderdome, bitch.
Yeah, man. Yeah, those are some. It's
what was Manny? What was that time period from the time that you got tuberculosis to the time that you got out?
Yeah, so
it sounds a lot longer than it. I'm sure.
Yeah, it sounds like this sounds like a 10-year ordeal. So
dude, it was years, literally. So we got back from Peleliu Pacific Partnership in 2007. It took almost all of 2008 for them to figure out what was wrong with me.
Damn.
Yeah, it was brutal. And then apparently tuberculosis is like this huge deal in public health. So once they figured out that tuberculosis, I had to take medication for like 6 months, right? So I couldn't leave the country. I couldn't leave. They literally brought and installed these cameras on my house to make sure I took the medications. It's highly controlled.
Oh shit!
My whole family literally had to do TB tests once a month. My wife said I'm not taking the medication, but the whole family, I had kids and everything. It was a big ordeal. So while I was going through that, I was getting ready to go to legal school. And then so landed on the Lincoln in 2009, and then from 2009 on, and then I ended up getting out of the Navy in 2011.
Wow, so 4 years from the time you got back to
the
time that you ended up. Jeez, that's not that's not a long time. Realistically, a lot of the times, when you hear people talk about I had this problem and I got out. You're like, oh, how long is 9 months? 4 years though
that's gotta be mentally draining.
Yeah, you're for 4 years you're dragging this on, and it's getting worse, and then finally somebody's like, all right, it's time to pull the plug.
Yeah, and I try to hide it. I was a functional addict. I was able to, and then when I went to urinalysis, I had the prescriptions, and because I was on limited duty, I was able to not be at work, so I was able to really kind of hide a lot of things. Once I got on the carrier, it became a little more challenging, especially when they gave me the Adderall. My boss is like, dude, you're loaded. What the hell's wrong with you? But I've always been really good academically. So I'm always able to cover things. Even now in my doctorate, it's very challenging, but I'm able to navigate it with a full-time trying to run a nonprofit, right?
Nice.
But yeah, that was I think this is one of the first times in a podcast where people catch that, dude. It was it destroyed me as a human being.
Yeah. I can only imagine. Yeah. We talk. So the Navy. So since you've been out,
Yeah.
The Navy has gotten worse at GMTs.
Oh wow.
If you can believe it. But there's one of them, and it's they tell you the story, and then they're like, all right, what's like the red flags in this situation and whatever. And one of them is a young sailor, checks into the boat, starts having, he's gung ho, and then he like gets in trouble one time, and then he like goes downhill, and it's like, 9 months to a year or whatever for like the length of time of the story. And I'm like, all right, that's probably like, I'm only a reservist. I don't have like deployments like you guys have had. I have like my deployment, and then like I'm back and I'm done. So like, even if I did get in trouble, unless it was like really worth knocking me down for, a lot of the time they're just like, go away. We're just going to make you do scut work for the rest of the deployment instead of dealing with you.
Yeah.
But I can imagine like 9 months to a year is like the standard, or like traditionally, like as long as it takes for them to be like, all right, cool. Start of problem, end of problem. But 4 years, man, just having it fucking drag on and having to deal with it is fucking crazy. And so you got out in 11.
Yeah.
What did you end up doing when you got, how was your transition out? Because obviously you weren't having a great time in, and it was getting worse. I can't imagine like day one of being a civilian, you were like, woo.
No, man, day one of being a civilian. The only thing that saved me was that one of the guys, when I was leaving the boat, he's like, hey, go to the, because I got out, I almost said paroled. I got out of the Navy in Washington State. And they had unemployment there. So like the first thing I did, because I didn't know what to do, like literally did not know what to do. My wife was, because we had gone on the deployment, my wife and kids were in Los Angeles. My wife's uncle had let her stay in their back house. So like I was up there by myself, and like I had a flight like in 5 hours. And the guy said, go to the Washington unemployment office. You'll get like a check. I didn't know about VA benefits. I didn't really know about the GI Bill. I knew nothing. Sure. I had zero transition, right? And went to the unemployment office, did all the paperwork, and at least I was going to get about $400 every 2 weeks. So I was like, all right, that's something. And then when I got back to LA, like for me, I was like, well, what do I do? And I started Googling, and I figured out the GI Bill. I discovered that there was a program here in LA at a local college where if you're a veteran, as long as you pass microbiology, physiology, and anatomy, you can go to nursing school.
Oh, damn.
Right?
Damn.
They didn't tell me that. Actually, I just learned this last week because I went to a conference with Dr. Tayeb, who has a PhD in nursing, and I was talking to him. I was like, hey, man, dude, like going to nursing school is like 10 times harder than going to my doctorate. He's like, yeah, actually, because he's an academic, and he's like, you do realize that nursing school is considered one of the hardest academic experiences of all, like really? Besides medical school, right? Because it's a 2-year compressed program, plus you have to do 24 hours of clinicals a week, right? 2 12-hour shifts. And imagine me getting out of the Navy all broken, addicted on Adderall. In my mind, I'm like, yeah, I can go to school. And then I picked the hardest school.
Right.
Not knowing this. I was just trying to
I mean,
my family.
You're like, I'm going to go help people. And then your first 12-hour shift, you're like, this sucks. Fuck those people.
Yeah. So it took a couple of years. It took like a year to get all the prereqs done. But long story short is in nursing school, like people were also abusing Adderall. I ran out of Adderall.
I'm shocked, but go on.
Yeah. Yeah. And one of my classmates is like, hey, dude, I know a guy who's a connect. And then I discovered like real methamphetamine, which is 1,000 times stronger than what I was taking.
Oh, yeah. Now, I take Adderall every day because I do have debilitating ADHD. Like if I don't take my medicine, and I took it when I was active duty. I had to get a waiver to carry a weapon because I was an MA.
Wow.
So I started it. I got diagnosed in 2008. They told me I probably had it since my whole life. So I was just never diagnosed. And then I got out in 2015, retired in 2015. But what was the dosage the Navy put you on? So this is for people
70 milligrams.
Sweet shit.
Yeah.
I take 20s.
Yeah.
And I'm not
so the Navy was just like, wow.
Well, this is my point. So you're taking morphine pills because of tuberculosis and the excruciating pain you're going through that. And then they're putting you on 70 milligrams of Adderall. Okay, see, Hugh, I would have to take 3.5 doses of what I have to make 7. And with 20 milligrams, I take the XR. And I'm like flying. Like, and I'm not a small human. God, Manny, that's a lot, bro. Jesus.
That's even more impressive. It took 4 years for this whole thing to go around, like considering the dosages that you were on.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's the highest quantity you can take as a safe dose.
Yes.
Safe dose.
Yeah. So and yeah, but one of the things too that they did is, remember, we're going on deployment, Billy. So when I
Yeah.
saw that psych, they gave me that whole
I'm out for the whole deployment.
For the whole deployment.
Yep.
So I was like abusing it really bad.
Oh yeah.
Not only was I abusing it, I was selling it to other people.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. I'm sure there were a bunch of people that like were afraid to go ask for it because they were told they weren't going to be allowed to be on it and serve, or they stopped taking it to get in and never figured out how to get on it again.
Yep.
Yeah,
man. Damn, man. I'm sorry you went through that, man.
Yeah, and it you know, it was the 70, and I'm glad you the XR. Yeah, it was the extended release, and it just but I was misdiagnosed with ADHD. I had some other underlying mental health issues, but it wasn't ADHD. So for me, the from pharmacologically, it impacted me like an actual drug, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it didn't do what it was supposed to do if you had ADHD. It just
was
a regular drug for somebody who just wants to get high.
Yeah, for me it brings me to, normal, right? Brings me to functional normal is what it does.
Yeah.
So yeah, if you're taking 70s, you're probably feeling like you could run marathons in 2 minutes.
I remember I had to do these. So you have the DRBs, the XOIs, and the NJPs. A lot of times they're recorded, so you have to transcribe them, right? So dude, I would just, and then we would also have the admin boards. So like I would just be like super loaded and on my computer, and I would just be listening to the recording, and like my coworkers would trip because I was just so focused, just like transcribing like these
hyper focused.
Yeah.
I was like, they're like, you're really good at that, and I'm like, yeah, this is fantastic. I'm like,
yes, I am.
I remember doing it one time in the mess hall because like the office was too loud, and now that I think about it, people are looking at me weird. I'm just like right here on this computer, like just like I was like, man. But yeah, I just and I come from a family that has addiction, so for me, like, when you have problems, you deal with it. But and I thought I was smart, right? Because I was like, I'm only gonna use it every other day, and I'm only gonna use it while I'm at work, right? But there's all these secondary symptoms, and now that I'm a clinician, and well, I'm associate clinical social worker, I kind of understand the pharmacology of some of these mental health issues. But it can induce psychosis, and it can induce a lot of issues, and that's it. It was causing a lot of problems at home because I was always irritable. I was always angry. I didn't realize that because for me, I would leave home at 5 a.m, go change, and then go to work at 7, right? So by the time I'm coming home around 4 or 5, because I would stay on the ship, I don't want to deal with my wife. I would stay a little bit later. I'm already coming down.
Yeah. Now you're getting your lull, and your side effects are kicking in when it's time to go home.
Yeah, and it just created I'm surprised my wife's still married with me. She's absolutely amazing. I love her to death. But yeah, it just
and that's recorded. She could never say that you didn't say that. It's on recording.
Yeah, we'll cut that part out for you.
Thanks, appreciate it. But no, yeah, she's absolutely amazing. I couldn't say anything better. I couldn't say there's not enough words on this planet to be able to say how much I love her and how much she has done for me. And as the story progresses, you'll understand why. But yeah, so
you got out. You were going to nursing school. You ended up.
Yeah. So from 2011, 2012, I worked on all the prereqs. Got into nursing school. It's 4 semesters. Got into nursing school in January of 2013. Yeah, I believe it was January 2013. And it took about 18 months to start getting arrested. I'm not a good criminal. I'm not a good addict, but I thought like I'm always smart. Like, did some obviously a meth person is associated with fraud, so did a lot of credit card fraud, hurt a lot of people, did a lot of really bad things. And then I was purchasing these like sets of numbers and at home tweaking and embossing these credit cards. But then I thought I had a way better idea of doing it, which was to like, I'm not going to pay these guys hundreds of dollars to get these numbers. Why don't I just like go inside houses and take this fancy camera, take pictures of all of their personal identifiable information, and then create my own credit cards that go apply to like the shitty credit cards like Credit One and Capital. Right. And that I got pretty good at it. I was making about 10 to 20 grand a month off of this. Because I'm in Los Angeles and my connect is associated with the gang, I was able to convince some of the youngsters to go start hitting like 5 or 10 houses a day. And we all thought we thought it was a safe crime, right? Because I'm not stealing nothing from the house. We're not like really breaking into the houses. Like usually you go in the houses that like have a window open, or some people always leave their houses, their doors open. So please lock your doors, because there's idiots like me that want to violate your privacy, which is completely wrong. And I deserve a little.
It's important to say that.
It's super important to say that.
Yes.
I thought it was the greatest idea in the world, but hindsight 2020, not at all. So,
it turns out the law didn't agree with me.
They did not. Apparently in California, residential burglary is a very, very serious crime.
Okay, good talk.
Yeah. So, you know,
so you got.
Yeah. Apparently one of the guys that was on a little crew, he ended up picking up an attempted murder, and in order to him get out of it, he's like, well, I know these guys that are in nursing school and they're doing this, and apparently we were under surveillance for like a year. I didn't know any of this, and I was already slowing down the crime and slowing down my drug consumption, because my mind, I was like, dude, I'm gonna be a nurse. If I get caught, I'm gonna lose my license. I'm about to graduate. Like, let's focus on that. So I slowly started doing stuff, and I had the guys do it. But long story short is the sheriff's department and a bunch of feds ended up coming to my house a few days before my daughter's birthday. We were at Applebee's celebrating her birthday. She had this huge, massive party like on the following Saturday. And my wife's uncle, you know, because we still lived in the back house, he's like, what the fuck, bro? There's all these cops at the house. What the hell did you do, right? And my first instinct, I got in the car. I had a bunch of money in my trunk. I gave my wife a stack of money. I said, look, honey, I can't. So nobody knew I was doing crime.
Oh.
I kept it completely under wraps.
Oh, wow.
So now your wife has got a ton of questions. So like,
yeah, everybody has
questions
like, what the hell? Because like for me, like I would have clinicals right now. I would say like, oh, I have an extra clinical this week. You really don't have extra clinicals in nursing school. But and then I got like a little license as a certified nursing assistant. So I was able to fake working at night. So I was doing things at night, you know, under the influence of narcotics. You're not sleeping, just doing all stupid shit. And so cops come. I'm on my way to Arizona, and my wife calls me. She's like, I don't know what you did. I'll be by your side. It is what it is. Just come around. I turned around thinking, you know, this is like, oh, it's just property crimes. It's not that big deal. Got arrested, go to LA County Jail, the infamous LA County Jail. That was a rude awakening. And you know, stayed there a couple of days. Next thing you know, I'm in front of a judge. My lawyer's like, they're thinking of indicting you with the federal case. And I'm like, what? This is like California.
Shit.
But what we were doing is we were like going to Arizona. So what we were actually doing was we were getting all these credit cards, and then we were going to different cities to buy MacBooks and then selling them on Amazon. But sometimes these guys would go to Arizona. Well, I didn't know that crossing state lines makes it a federal crime.
Yep.
And, I was able to beat the case, right? Beat the federal case, because the back house was actually registered with the post office, right? The front house was like 13022. The back house was 13024. So the warrant was to 13022.
Oh shit.
So, and you know, Billy, you know how that works. Right? Like, it was just the luck. It was just,
the paper has to be 100% ready to go.
Sheer luck. I had a DUI case from one of the MAs that worked for me. A DUI case. It got thrown out because he fucking misspelled the guy's first and last name on the fucking ticket.
Yeah, so that was like a godsend, right? But they're like, yeah, you ain't doing the feds, but we still got you on the California case, because in my car, like I had like a little shitty 26 like gun, the ones that like the really little tiny like handgun that I had stolen because I thought it looked cool. I had some people. I had like the camera with the SIM card with all the people's information, so they were able to pick me up on like 15 charges of residential burglary here in California.
Damn.
Luckily,
how long were you locked up for?
6 years. I ended up getting a 6-year sentence. So first try got maxed out. I took a deal. And the other thing I didn't realize was that because we joined the Navy and we have our fingerprints, did we lose him?
He'll be back in a sec. He probably clicked the wrong button. The leave button is right next to a button. He's done this like 2 or 3 times.
Okay. But so I lost my train of thought because he got oh, he's back.
Yeah, I don't know what happened. Sorry, guys. Sorry about that, everyone. My bad.
Yeah, but so I had a bunch of stuff in my car. They picked me up for 6 years. I ended up taking a deal called expedited disposition processing, where you just admit the guilt. They reduce most of the charges. So I ended up getting picked for 3 residential burglaries. And they did them all concurrent, which is nice, right? because it's instead of being consecutive, it's just 6 years on top of 6 years on top of 6 years.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, I took the chain, went to California Department of Corrections, and I continued. For me, I was like, oh, it's the end of the world. I'm going to prison. I'm going to just do all the drugs and do all the stupid shit in prison. Well, guess what? They still arrest you in prison.
Yep.
What? I didn't know that. All right.
Oh, yeah. You commit crimes while you're locked up. You get arrested while you're incarcerated.
Yeah.
Charged, right? The trial shit that you think like normally that don't happen. You get charged and it's automatic, right?
Oh, shit.
And I'm pretty sure, and correct me if I'm wrong on this one, Manny, the warden can under the statute limitations, meaning like the time frame, can determine how much time to add on to your sentence.
So in California, it's very, very structured. So there's like a D1 offense, A1 offense. So there's specific stuff. I got charged with. So I started selling drugs in prison to support myself. I felt bad. I was like, I didn't want to bother my wife, and so I got picked up for distribution. Luckily, because I was a paralegal, I knew kind of some of the laws. I was able to convert that distribution into possession, but I didn't know at that time that, like I think, and I was like, well, it goes to possession. Like I'll just do the time on the yard, right? Which is just get what we call it a 115, right? Which is your California Department of Corrections 115 violation, right? I was like, oh yeah, the possession takes 1 year, right? So the way California works is you have a 6-year sentence, and then based on good time, you get reductions, right? So because I was a non-violent offender, I would do 50% of those 6 years, which is 3 years. Yeah. If you get in trouble, then the maximum you can do is 6 years, right?
Yeah.
But I literally went backwards. Right? So get to prison. I win the lottery of prison, which is fire camp. I become a prison firefighter, where you're not locked down. You go out in the community. You do all this cool stuff. But I had a problem with cell phones, and I got caught like 5 times with the cell phone. Ended up picking up points, and then I got kicked out of fire camp and taken back onto the yard, and that's when I got caught with the narcotics. And so, but me thinking that I was like, yeah, it's just possession. They're not going to pick up a case. Actually, there is a statute that states that possession carries 2 years.
Oh.
Right. Consecutive. Right. Yeah. So that got doubled up. It ended up being like, I ended up getting 4 years out of that possession. So it added an additional 4 years to my 6 years.
Damn.
Jeez. Yeah. So it was a total sentence of 10 years. But this is where the story changes a little bit. And so because I got caught in prison with drugs, I got sent to the hole because I picked up an A1 offense for distribution. I was headed to Tehachapi Shoe, but because I was navigating these courts, going back and forth from court and fighting them, I ended up doing almost a year in solitary confinement. And that's where kind of where all the bullshit of all my life, I had to kind of be forced to reflect on it, right?
Yeah, now you have to live with. Now you're not live with it. You have to sit in it.
So, in California, it's a highly political environment, and I really can't talk about the politics of prison, but just to give you a little bit of a tidbit, it's there was guys who were part of a political organization, which I belonged to, and they were like, what the hell are you doing back here, dumbass? I'm like, what do you mean? They're like, you have a date. You're going home. Like, we're back here because we're never going home. So we understand that we do a lot of the dirt. So idiots like you can technically go back out and then be our connects on the outside, right? There's like a ulterior motive. But the whole thing is like, it was the first time where like people kind of cared about me more than myself or my wife, right? And they said, well, you're on a no drug policy back here, mandatory workouts, and get your shit together. And I was like, well, started reading the Bible, had a little radio that only got the Catholic station. So really got into my faith, started learning, they give you, there's a law library back there, start reading all the laws and figuring out kind of how to start reducing time and really changing my life. And got sober. And I ended up going to picked up the time, got the extra 4 years. Now I got a 10-year sentence with some credits. I was going to do like 8 years and some change. And I go to Folsom State Prison. Good old Folsom, dude. Johnny Cash.
Oh, wow.
I was really motivated. And Folsom was like, it wasn't the traditional Folsom that you hear about in the movies.
Yeah,
Blood Alley and all the stabs. It was actually kind of a retirement prison now. So all these old dudes, guys who've done a lot of time, they had a college on campus. They had all these rehabilitation support groups, and I was like, you know what, I'm gonna try to change my life, man. I'm gonna try to really do something about it. So I enrolled in school, found a passion for education, got 5 associate's degrees while I was there. I joined every group that you can think of. We're talking about relapse prevention, criminal gangs and associates, which is like AA for like criminal behavioral thinking. And then joined a group called Bridges to Life, dude. And you know how earlier I talked about like I committed residential burglaries. I kind of alluded a little bit to it that I really violated people's privacy, right? I really like screwed up by going to people's homes, regardless of how I was doing it, or whatever like weird thought I had about being thinking like I'm not stealing their stuff. I really violate people's properties. Really violate people's property and their sense of security. But I didn't realize the gravity of that. So I went to this good old group called Bridges to Life. It's restorative justice. And restorative justice believes in circles and making things right, like bringing balance to community. And there's a lot of other things. So don't come at me because I didn't. Some of the listeners will be like, that's not restorative justice, but they understand what restorative justice is, and I'll be here forever. They do these victim offender dialogue groups where they put a victim who's gone through a crime. So I'm sitting in front of this little old lady, and her home got robbed like 20 years ago, but the emotions of that experience was still there. And she's crying and she's telling me in front of me about how somebody went in her house and they stole this little SpongeBob TV. You know, the TVs that have like the TV and the VCR.
Yeah.
And she's like, I worked so hard for that. I worked like 2 shifts, and that's what my kid wanted for Christmas. And they took that, and I couldn't get it again. I couldn't buy it again because I didn't have the economic means. And that just shifted something in me, right? That was one of the really incidents that really like I was like, damn, dude, I'm the dude that did that. And it really hit me because one of the homes I took like a Game Boy, right? And I had given that Game Boy to my son, and like they just took me there, right? Like that right there just kind of broke me, and I just didn't want. I never wanted to be that person again. I ended up, going through the class, actually becoming a facilitator, teaching that curriculum, and really learning it. Yeah, that was my wonderful prison experience. What happened at Folsom, which really kind of led me down this path of being at this podcast, is the VA has social workers that come and visit you in prison. And we had a pretty solid veterans group, about 100 veterans. Sit down with the social worker, and she's like, asking me like all these questions, learning about my case, and she says, "You do realize you were a candidate for Veterans Treatment Court?" I was like, "What the hell is Veterans Treatment Court?" She's like, "Well, it's a court where if your offense is related to your service, you get kind of a slap on the hand. You go to treatment. You go to the VA. You can do 80 days to 100." Like, you can do 3 to 6 months up to a year in treatment, and then that's your condition of release. You do treatment, and then you go on your married life. So think about how I felt, right? This was like 3-4 years into my term, and I'm listening from a social worker like I could have done treatment
instead of
all this time,
all this other stuff, being in there for 3 to 4 years, feeling like you're not going anywhere, feeling like your life is over. It turns out you could have actually gotten help from people who want to help you. And nobody said anything up to this point.
Nobody said anything. And I was like, so hit the books. And I started discovering, that paralegal education really came in handy. Learning about habeas corpuses, learning about how to advocate for myself within the custody settings. And I actually, met a guy who was like a legal guru on the yard. And together we wrote up a couple of relief. So habeas corpus is you're able to petition to the court for either reducing your sentence or looking at mitigating circumstances and figuring out how you can reduce the time. So we actually submitted a habeas corpus because they kind of screwed up some of the way that they did the search for those drugs, right? Where I caught those 4 years.
Okay.
And then we also did one for like the VA.
Well, hold on a sec. Hold on. So even though you got caught in prison with them, there's still a methodology to how they're allowed to go about finding them.
Oh yeah, there's procedures and they have to do everything a certain way. If they screw
can't
it
just
up,
come in and be like, "Hey, we're flipping mattresses today."
No, it's like a rights violation. It's like a personal rights.
It's exactly what it was. It was a rights violation. So I got sent to the whole.
Hold on, real quick. That's not to say if you're in prison you should start selling drugs.
No, don't do that. No,
I'm just asking because I didn't know that you had different, like you still had like rights to a certain extent, and that there were policies. So if you're listening,
this is Hugh's monthly service.
I'm just saying, if this is the only part you caught, please don't say the drunkard on Liberty Risk podcast said you can hide them in your mattress.
In my opinion, being a drug dealer is one of the worst crimes because I'm hurting humanity.
I can see that.
And that's the monster that I was, and I didn't realize how much of a monster I was, and I skipped a really important part. Was when, obviously when you go to the hole, you lose communication. So like I didn't call my wife, I didn't send letters, because I didn't have stamps, right? And eventually I was able to send a letter to my wife and get communication, but I was working out in the cages, because you work out in these dog kennels. And I hear my name, Gomez, visit. I was like, who the hell is coming to visit me? Like this was one of two visits in prison that I got in my 5 years. And I see my wife, like I'm all sweaty. You have these jumpsuits. I'm shackled, right? Because I'm, in the secure housing unit, like highest level of security. Cut the corner, glass. It was a glass visit. And man, my wife just starts crying, bro. She just starts crying. And a lot of people heard me say the story, but that and the story about the SpongeBob thing, those are the two things that really made me change my life and become the human that I am today. I'm not perfect. I still have a lot of demons, but like I pick up the phone and I hear my little girl, and she's like, Daddy looks like a monster. And I saw myself in the reflection. So this is my kid, dude.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. No, I get it.
And I did look like a monster because, I didn't have access to razors. I had a long beard. My hair was all over the place. I just finished working out. My glasses were broken because I got in a fight back there. So like, and they can't replace. They were all like tied with like, this plastic that you can from your shit. I just look like a mess, right? And man, I like that and the SpongeBob story, like there's all these collateral.
You can pinpoint like, hey, these are the two things that led to the 180-degree turnaround.
Yeah, and all these programs that you do in prison, they're called inmate leisure tag activity groups. They make you like journal and write about these experiences and really learn about yourself and really develop this emotional intelligence. Like going through the restorative justice programs, all of that, you have to learn about yourself, and you have to admit your flaws, understand the consequences of your actions, and be a man and take it. And that's why I'll never make excuses for the crimes that I committed. I deserved 100% to be in prison. Yeah, we could have I actually utilized the legal mechanisms to get me out of prison early, but that does not discount the wrongs that I did.
You use tools that are available to you. You didn't skirt the law to get out. You didn't, do something uncouth to get out early. You found some avenues that were available, and you're like, hey, listen, I'd like to use these, and thankfully you were able to get out early. How long, or if you don't mind me asking, when was it that you got out?
I got out. I'll never forget it. It's right here on my wrist.
There you go. 1/14.
January 14, 2019.
2019. Jeez, you got out of prison, went right into a fucking pandemic. Christ almighty.
That was good though, because I could work and go to school at the same time and not have to deal about the.
I get you. Listen,
you know what?
I'm one of those people.
That's the three people right here who think COVID actually had some silver linings for us.
Yeah, I miss COVID. I miss COVID. Like, can we do that again, please?
How long between when you got out and then started going to school till you started VetPhoenix?
So let me take back a little bit steps back. So I ended up doing those habeas corpuses. I actually won one of them, and so by the way, all those classes that I took, you get a bunch of time off, right? So for going to college, for every class that you take, you get like 2 weeks off of your sentence. For every like leisure course that you do, like it's like every 52 hours, I forget, it's every certain amount of hours that you do, you get like a week off. So while I was a Folsom, I was able to get 2 years off of my sentence. Right?
Damn.
Just by going to school.
I grinded. I took 6 classes. I was like literally busy, like from 8 a.m. to 9 o'clock every day, right? Because the classes are at night because people work in the morning.
Yeah.
Right. So I was able to take 2 years off. So when the case finally came back, what happened was that I got caught with 2 bindles, right? 2 bindles is considered distribution, but there wasn't drugs in the bindles. They had already been utilized, right?
Yeah.
So they had an untestable amount of methamphetamine in them, right? But they charged me with distribution. So I was able to leverage saying that it was an untestable amount, so you never had evidence to substantiate the crime.
Huh. Okay.
So they said, yeah, you'll still take the 2 years from the case that you got in Tuolumne County, right? The one where you got formally charged, but they dismissed all the prison time that I got off, right? So it was a year of dead time in the hole, because when you're in the hole, like that time's dead, right? You're just doing, you don't get no credits. And then I got a year of administrative time off. So those 2 years, right, plus the 2 years that I had taken off with education, that knocked off 4 years off my sentence automatically.
Oh, wow.
So I ended up doing like an extra few months, and I got out. I got that notice like in like August of 2018, and then I was able to get out in January. But I was already going to school. At that time, I already had a plan. I was like, oh, I can use the GI Bill to go to school. This veterans group is really good. So I knew, I was like, look, I'll probably be a burger flipper for the rest of my life. It is what it is. I had actually applied for service connection while I was in custody. So that social worker helped me get service connected.
Nice.
Right? Now remember, I got tuberculosis. So I have a super like slam dunk claim, right? So I got service connected.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, when you're incarcerated, all your service connections get reduced to 10%. That's the law. So if you're 100%, the moment you go into jail on that 61st day post conviction, it's called they reduce it to 10%, which is not 10% of the 100%. It's like the 10% rating, $174, right? So
wow.
Yeah, so your benefits get screwed when you're in custody. So I was getting my little 174. As soon as I got out, submitted some paperwork, and I immediately went to 80%. Like a few weeks after getting out of prison.
Wow.
And then I was like, oh, I got voc rehab and I got the GI Bill. So that was my means of me kind of like getting money in my pocket to support my family.
That's awesome.
Right. So I went to Cal State Fullerton, and so they have this thing called it's called Project Rebound, and you guys will understand it really easily. It's a veterans resource center for people that have gone to prison.
Oh, at the college?
At the college. It's a big old infrastructure in California. There's one at the Cal States called Project Rebound. Community colleges is called Rising Scholars. And in the UCs, like UCLA, all those fancy schools, it's called Underground Scholars.
And it's for veterans who've been to prison?
For just anybody who's done prison.
Anybody who's been to prison.
Yeah, but it's modeled after like a veterans resource center, right? Like usually when you go to a VRC, like the director's a veteran, the counselor's a veteran, like the people that work there.
So everybody that works in these programs has been to prison as well. They know how these programs run, what they can do, what their resources are.
Yeah. So I'll never forget seeing Mir. He's the academic counselor there. He's getting his master's at Cal State Long Beach. JC's getting his master's in social work at Cal State Long Beach. Some people are getting their doctorates, and I'm like, what the?
Damn, dude.
Wow. That's crazy.
Awesome.
They've done decades in prison, right? We're talking about not guys like me that just done a few years. These guys have like turned their lives around, and that gave me hope. I was like, I'll be there one day. And I ended up getting a job as a case manager, helping guys restabilize from prison on Skid Row. Fell in love with social work, and long story short, I ended up finishing my bachelor's. And then in my master's degree, I wanted to be a social worker because a social worker saved my life. California actually allows you to get licensed as a social worker regardless of your background.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, so
that is awesome.
I would imagine that like having a background in social work in whatever like your I don't want to say specialty, but like if you had a background in it, that would make you better at it. Like fight for it, right?
That I literally use that language because here we have something called Department of Rehabilitation, which is a program that pays for school if you can identify a barrier. Incarceration is a barrier. And I always put when we write those applications that social work is one of the few fields that utilizes your incarceration as an asset.
That's great.
Rather than a detriment. But yeah, so got the master's degree. In my last year to answer your question about VetPhoenix, in my last year of my master's, I discovered that there was a lot of work about advocacy, veterans treatment court, and just supporting veterans that are incarcerated in Los Angeles. I enmeshed myself in that world. I got a job for an organization called CVJP, and that's the rest I'll say about it because that was a horrendous experience. It was this prosecutor who really wanted to do great work, but she just didn't know how to support veterans, right? We can talk about the other liberty risk, very similar experience, right? So I somehow was able to get an internship with the Veterans Peer Access Network, which is an amazing network of like 40 peers here in Los Angeles that provide all these resources and services. A great program started by Director Jim Zenner. It's if not one of the largest peer support networks in the nation for veterans. They're actually paid staff. They work out of these nonprofits. I got an internship there, got exposed to that world. And then I knew the director was also a social worker. And my coworkers were like, dude, just go be a social worker. Just go be an intern for Jim. Like, it's super easy, right? Because I was like, in social work, you're required to do an internship, right? But I'm a dad. I have to support my family. And it's very difficult to do it. So I ran across Director Zenner and I said, hey, this is my story and I'd love to be your intern. And he fucking believed in me, bro. He gave me a shot. Like, this is the director of veteran services for the county of Los Angeles.
That's pretty amazing.
Dude, you're talking about like, so 18% of criminals in California are veterans. And apparently nationally, it's 8% of prison populations are previous military service members.
Yeah, we'll get to those statistics pretty quickly, right?
That's crazy, dude.
So I worked for Director Zenner as an intern, and I got my homies, like all the other veterans, they got the easy route, but I got the hard route. But the hard route was the route to go because I was passionate.
Yeah,
I got that moment in prison about not getting offered Veterans Treatment Court in the very county, right?
Yeah, and for so long too.
Yeah.
It's not like it was
they didn't know that you.
It was years.
Like they didn't know you had a military record.
Yeah, exactly.
They're like,
we'll get to it. I was in the veterans dorm. So, but long story short, my first task with Director Zenner was to write a motion to the Board of Supervisors to develop some innovative solutions for serving justice involved veterans. I wrote the motion. I had no idea what I was doing. It was before ChatGPT.
Had to do all your own research, check all your own sources.
I love that you threw that caveat in there. It was before ChatGPT. Okay, just make that known
because it's important, bro. So I wrote it. He gave me the full support, and our board of supervisors, right, in LA County, agreed that we needed to develop innovative solutions for veterans. And the first thing we did was we developed a lived experience advisory panel. I knew that in order to do this work, you need to have the voices of those impacted by incarceration.
Yeah,
so I had a pretty good network now. I'd been out a few years, so this was in my 2023 when I started this kind of like this journey.
Okay.
And I hit up all the homies in the veteran world that I knew were like powerhouses, right? So a guy from Chicago, guy from LA. They were all in graduate school or they had graduated. They had these high-level positions, but they were all veteran, highly educated, and formerly incarcerated, right? And we're ranging from guys that went through Veterans Treatment Court through guys that did 28 years in prison, right? So there was a huge, and we had one amazing, Terry, who was from the VA Long Beach. She was our female veteran representative, and it was pretty cool that we started having these work groups and think tanks. And in one of these situations, we also had one of my homies, Rufio, Marine, dude, big old Marine. He actually had his master's from UCLA in like don't kill me, Rufio, if you listen to this, but it's like some kind of like data analytics, right? Pretty smart dude, right? And he's like a nomad biker dude. Like if you see him, you never think he graduated. He's actually getting a second master's at USC now. So
awesome.
But we got to be put in the room with the dudes that were responsible for Veterans Treatment Court, right? But what we discovered, right, is that the social worker manager who was responsible for Veterans Treatment Court had been in that position for 15 years. Which means he was responsible for not informing my courthouse about my specific case. I got to be in the room with a dude that was like, I got you, bro. But I played it professional. I was like, all right. We did some good diplomacy. I knew that my goal was bigger than telling him off, right?
Right.
But Rufio came in and he did me a solid. And Rufio's like, hey, I'm actually going through Veterans Treatment Court right now. And I've been on Veterans Treatment Court. an additional unnecessary 12 months, and I can't get a letter to release me from the courts because I can't get a hold of your staff.
Oh shit.
In front of like the director of the VA, the lieutenant of the sheriff's department, like the leader of the public defender's
That's
office.
what's up.
So like where this is a think tank of like all the bigwigs, right? Like little or medium. So long story short, I finished my internship and the director hires me. He hires me to be the first ever formally incarcerated executive leading these initiatives for the county of Los Angeles.
That's awesome, dude.
Wow, man. That's impressive.
That's really awesome.
Yeah, because LA is not small, so
no, it's massive, dude. Like we have 44 courthouses, like 40 some police departments. It's huge. So in the 2 years that I was there, I was able to get millions in funding, and I was able to secure positions for 10 staff to support the department in these veteran justice initiatives. We put staff in the courts, we put staff in the jails, and we ensured that no matter where the veteran gets interacted, that there is information to support them to get diverted over to Veterans Treatment Court. Now, there's still a lot of work to do. It's a massive
system. There's always still a lot of work to do, right? No matter what, right?
Yeah. But we got the two most important pieces, right? We got the people and we got the money.
There you go.
What would you say is the most common reason veterans end up in prison?
Substance use.
Substance use.
Yeah.
And you think that directly correlates to their time, whether in combat or is it just service in general? Because I think that's a big thing too, right?
Yeah.
Well, I think people for a long time, they associated PTSD with combat only.
Yeah,
not
and
realizing
there's a stigma that comes with it. So that's what sucks.
Yeah, not realizing that having a really shitty chain of command or just one bad experience underway or in port can lead to lifetime of addiction.
Oh,
I really appreciate that question because it's a great segue to the next part of the story. I am now a doctoral student trying to find those answers, and I'll read an excerpt from my paper.
Oh, fuck yeah, dude. Let's have it.
Veterans go to prison not because of a single failure, but because of an intersection of structural, psychological, and systemic breakdowns that converge after service. Their path to incarceration often begins long before crime with the invisible injuries of war, the dislocation of identity, and the collapse of institutional trust.
My therapist said something very similar to me. I have a problem with leadership and have for the majority of my career. I just instinctively do not trust my leadership.
Really? Hugh, I've never heard you ever mention anything
shocking.
Like that in the 6 years we've done this.
I know. I've only ever said positive things about my leadership, so this is obviously a shock to listeners.
Oh, I wish I had a bullshit voiceover button right now.
Well, apparently this is directly related to being let down very early on in my career and never having any of them redeemed themselves, only continuing either to let me down drastically or just not be what I expect out of them. Mm-hmm. And so while as we said, PTSD is usually contributed to combat related, there are people serving who are going to get injured and medical is going to tell them you don't need to be here or take some Tylenol, go away. We're not writing this down. They're going to find out years later that this is now causing follow-on issues. And when they told their leadership about it at the time, they were like, well, you're fine, or, well, you need to suck it up, or you need to get back at it. Now they're not at that command. They're 5 to 7 years further in their career, and they're having problems that are rooted in that initial incident. And so now they were let down, they weren't taken care of, and now it's a lot harder for them to get treatment and get back into a fight that they want to stay in.
Absolutely. You're 100% right. And it actually goes a little bit farther back than that, because a lot of times we join the military as a mechanism, right, for upward mobility, right? We come from these low socioeconomic environments, and we want to do something better for ourselves.
Sure.
And what we've seen in the research is that there's something called adverse childhood experiences, right? It's this kind of test that was developed by Kaiser, which identifies kind of criminality or deviance or predictors to ending up in certain environments. But what we've discovered for people in prison, right, it's a questionnaire of about 10 questions, right? And usually it'll ask you, like, have you ever been sexually assaulted? All these different questions. But we've discovered that, I didn't, but the research has discovered that people who are incarcerated have a very, very high percentage of high ACE scores, 9s and 10s, right? Because there is a root cause in their childhood that broke some form of trust, right? Like you're talking about, right? We can discuss that specific perspective of like your leadership always letting you down. But if we go really in deeper, right? Is there anybody before the military that let you down?
Yeah, it could be trusted family member, friend, could have been a mentor, could have been a teacher you looked up to. Yeah. There was a key moment in that person's life in which they were let down by somebody that they were told would always take care of them or would be a resource or would look out for them. Now here you are 15, 20 years later.
And we call that something's called polytraumatization, right? So we're talking about post-deployment, unresolved adverse childhood experiences, this dysregulation that it interacts with like post-traumatic stress and moral injury, right? So this is all these layers of like this chronic state of survival mode, right? Which like it'll manifest into that impulsivity, the aggression, the addiction. And those are all causative factors of incarceration, you know? And then when they're filtered through these like civilian systems, what happens is that there's always a punitive response, not a holistic response. Now, veterans treatment courts have been designed to give that holistic approach, right? Because you have a veteran like ourselves, a mentor who walks them through there. You have a VA social worker, and then the court understands that this is a mechanism for healing, not a mechanism for punishment.
Sure.
There's still a lot of work to be done, but that's kind of the intersection of like why my nonprofit work exists now, where I was polished through county government to really understand the why of why so many veterans are incarcerated. And then bringing some humanity into it and trying to make sure that when veterans go to prison, it's not because they're broken, it's because these systems that were built to honor their service fail to understand their wounds. And that's where like we exist in. A lot of this fancy language I work a lot through with my partner Eric Sowers, a Tillman scholar, justice impacted veteran out of the Ohio State, he's a PhD candidate. But we always talk about these systems that have to transform from punishment into reintegration and stigma into strength and confinement into ascent.
And how do you guys communicate these intents and resources to local law enforcement and local I was going to say law persons, but lawyer would be the right word.
Yeah, so this is where a good friend of mine, Kevin Shoup, comes into the discussion, right? Kevin Shoup and Danny Wilson, we just presented in Chicago. I always joke with him. He has all these fancy terms of like veteran justice solutions. I call it C-squared solutions, cops and convicts, right? What we've discovered is that so my biggest ally in Los Angeles, when I did this systemic and structural work, by the way, Eric has the credit for the word structural. He's the one that developed the structural stuff. I'm a doctoral social work candidate. He's a PhD social work candidate. I'm more practical. He's more academic, scholarly.
Gotcha.
Fair enough.
What we discovered, well, not discovered, but one of the things that I've learned is that using my story to break down the perceptions that you have an officer, and Billy, you'll understand this a little bit, right? Is that if you know I got a record and I'm a convict, you being an MA, you are already automatically distrust me.
Yeah,
that's like
it's a societal given. Right?
It's like when somebody is telling you a story and you tell them a similar story. There's two sides of that coin. One side is like, well, you just needed to tell me your thing, but what is really happening is I'm trying to let you know that I can relate to what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. But I'll answer your question two ways. One of the things is you hit it right on the money, right? We needed to ensure that we educated law enforcement partners on how to be able to respond to veterans in crisis, right? So in Los Angeles County, one of the things that we did, and that's a phase 2 of VetPhoenix, right, is an amazing chief of police by the name of Dave Weiner. Shout out to Dave Weiner. He was a chief of police at the VA, has a master's in psychology, and now he's a national trainer on veteran cultural competency. So we funded his training in Los Angeles County. Me and Dave, we actually developed a training specifically on how to address the needs of justice-involved veterans. It starts with information, right? The breakdown in the system that led me to incarceration was a breakdown in information. It was a systemic failure. Because all I needed to do was that social worker needed to have a better outreach program, educate all the courts on the referral process to get me bound over to Veterans Treatment Court. Well, we knew that was the one point that we needed to address. Not only do we need to educate people on how to better support veterans, but we also need to educate the community on the whys behind it, right?
Okay.
Yeah, you can't just make a program and then be like, this is what it's for, and then not go tell people how to use it.
Yeah, that doesn't make any sense. What's the point of creating it in the first place?
Yeah, so Dave, actually, we did like this massive outreach campaign and started training all the police departments here in Los Angeles County. Not only did we train the police departments, we also started training the other departments, right? Because in county, it's a system, right? It's a government system. So the Department of Children's Services, who has, thousands of veterans who are fighting, child support cases, doesn't know that there's a Department of Military Veteran Services that can provide some form of support to pay the child support, right? Which, if they don't pay the child support for a long time, then that becomes a criminal case, right? So we started educating all these departments, right, about the resources that were available within their own system. And a lot of them didn't know that the Department of Military Veterans Affairs existed, because it's one of the smallest departments in Los Angeles County. And Director Zenner did a really good job of that. Now, I'm no longer an employee there, so I'm speaking of what I learned and what I saw. I left there, had a great relationship, and I left there positively, but that's where VetPhoenix started, right? Because I understood that in order to really have those cultural competent conversations, right? Like, we need to speak the truth about these systems. They're broken. I can't speak about those systems as a government executive.
Right. Yeah. You can't be, I don't want to say hamstrung in a negative manner, but you can't be hamstrung by the organization's policies that are preventing you from doing what the organization wants you to do.
Yeah. And I was very successful. I had this whole.
That's like when the Navy, I don't remember, like 5 or 6 years ago, they finally came out with like a single website that had all the links to all the other websites and everything. You're like, Christ almighty, did this take way too fucking long to get to? It would be nice that there was one website, but the fact that they're all in one location is helpful. And, we've had many organizations on here, and what you're saying is the antithesis of lack of understanding. There's not a location to go to be like, hey, which one of these is helpful here? Somebody has to go in and say, hey, this is what we're here for. Here's our flyer. Here's our pamphlet. Here's what we're directly related to and how we can help out. But if somebody's not doing that, then it's just wasted resources, or resources not being utilized to their full extent.
Yeah, and that was the magic between Director Center's Veteran Peer Access Network, right? That's and Texas does it as well, but Director Center just did it in a way better level because he funded, I think Texas funds it, but he funded local support, right? Like you said, all this information's all over the place. Nobody becomes a single expert for it.
Right.
So these peer support specialists broken down by districts became experts of their community and of the resources out there. Now, so when you as a veteran need help, you go to another veteran who's a certified peer specialist, right?
Yep.
And he knows all the resources because that's his job. He gets paid to be the master of the resources.
Yeah.
You have that lived experience, familiarity by both being veterans. A lot of times their peers, they've gone through some shit. And it's access to services is so much easier. And although there really isn't any correlation or causation, and VPAN hasn't been really studied appropriately, what you can see is that before VPAN existed and after VPAN existed, there has been a drastic change in the way veterans receive support.
That's what's important. It doesn't matter. What the important fact is that you can see noticeable change. It doesn't matter how long that it takes. Yeah. It matters that you can measure it in any form. And I like that you said you have that lived experience to share, because in your situation here, it's not just that you're a veteran, because not all veterans connect. We have very different experiences. Yep. Whatever your branch was and whatever your community was. But now you've added, hey, not only did we both wear our uniform, we both have been to prison. So now it's not just, you're a sailor and maybe this other person was a Marine. Like, oh, well, I probably had it harder than he did, the fucking sailor. Like, oh, you were a convict as well, though. Okay. Now this is a little bit more tight knit. And there's a stronger bond there, knowing that there's two communities you now share together as opposed to just one.
And that facilitates, this relationship of trust. And that's what's so important about VetPhoenix. And really kind of talks about our values, right? He has it on the screen, right? Where we empower you through our own stories. Is that you don't have to be embarrassed about your incarceration because guess what? I've also been incarcerated.
Yeah, that's a big deal. That makes a big deal to people.
Yeah, and what made me lucky is because I got in trouble on my second enlistment. I still had my general discharge. I had my honorable discharge from my first enlistment, right? So I was still eligible to all those benefits, right? If you look at my DD 214, it only says that the last 12 months of my 6 years, were the ones that were adverse. That's the power of being paralegal. Is you go to your discharge department when they did my DD 214. I was like, you have to make sure that I have 5 and change of honorable service. It's just that 1 year that wasn't honorable.
Yeah.
That made a difference because I have access to all these benefits. But But that's one of the things too about, I loved working in government, but I can't be my full authentic self. Now I did at some time share that I was formerly incarcerated, but that's not appropriate for that space because I'm there as the executive overseeing the division for justice of all veterans.
Yeah.
So I had to make a really tough choice and walk away from the job that I love. Luckily, I was able to get a massive funding grant that's going to support me for the next few years. But we get to do this on our own terms now.
Right. Yeah. You get to set your own terms. You get to set your own standards. You get to set your own practices, and you get to choose how and when you'll be providing these benefits and these services to people. And it's nice because now there's nobody else you have to report to. There's not X many people who we're going to take it to advisors, or we're going to take to people that are strategy, whatever. Like, no, the job is to do this. We don't need all this other steps. So now it's, hey, we got this, and now we're doing it.
Yeah, and that's what VetPhoenix is all about. And like you said earlier with Liberty Risk, is that like VetPhoenix, it stands like not only is it the name of our organization, but it really also embodies you rising from the ashes. That's where we're a Phoenix, right? The other thing too is I went to MEPS in Phoenix, so that was pretty cool.
I kept looking it up. I was
it's
like,
all full circle.
I thought this guy's from Arizona. Like, what is VetPhoenix? Like, he's in California. What the hell? It had to be something.
It's full circle. It's full circle. It's totally awesome. But it's
good. We're blessed, man.
That's awesome.
Oh man, and not only are you blessed, these people are blessed to have you as well. It's I've being a reservist, I've done the transition 5 times, and just listening to the organizations come up and tell me like, oh, they're a retired Master Chief with 28 years, and now they work for the Department of Labor. I'm like, first of all, the fact that you're a retired Master Chief means fuck all. And you're telling me all this really great information for the Department of Labor, but you're talking to a room of people. This is a little bit more tailored on the reserve side. These people have jobs, they have careers, like they don't need to hear all this shit. But if somebody comes to you and they're not a veteran and they're not a convict, and they're just like rattling, what you're hearing is them rattling off information. There's no faith, there's no trust, there's no connection.
Yeah.
That goes so far.
Yeah. And that's the value that we bring at VetPhoenix, right? Because we transitioned twice. Not only did we transition out of prison, we transitioned out of the military. And we just because of multiple reasons, I'm resilient. I don't give up. I don't like the word no. If you tell me no, it's going to motivate me to go do things. But I do it in a very calculated way, right? Is that I know that I have lived experience. I know that I went to prison, but that in itself only has value that goes so far. Yeah, we can connect. So I went and got the college degrees. Right now, for me to be able to discuss the causative factors of incarceration, let me address those maladaptive coping mechanisms, the adverse childhood experience. So I became a therapist. Right, nice. I'm about 1,500 hours into my license, and hopefully I'll be a licensed clinical consultant. But
that's awesome.
I do therapy on a regular basis to our clients in VetPhoenix. The other thing too is like I know I have all these fantastic ideas and these great opinions about serving veterans, but that doesn't mean nothing if it's not peer reviewed or academic. So guess what? Me and Eric did. Well, Eric was already his PhD, but I was like, let's go figure out how to get this doctorate because now my voice is no longer an opinion. Right?
It's fact.
It's fact, and it's evidence-based, right? So me and Eric, and you hear me talk a lot about Eric Sowers because he's literally my research partner, and we developed what's called a veteran equity framework, which is going to get it published in the Veteran Studies. It's a book. We're chapter contributors that develop 5 principles of how to support veterans who are marginalized, right?
That's very cool.
So now that becomes a framework that's published and peer-reviewed.
Yeah. So now you've taken this problem and you said, hey, listen, I'm not saying this is a fix all, but here are 5 steps you can solve 80% of your problems.
Exactly. And we study it too. And what the doctorate does is it allows me to kind of be my own bullshit checker, because the one thing that the doctor has taught me, even on Friday when I got called into the professor's office, he's like, hey, Manny, you haven't really really been focused on class. And I was like, you're right. I've been at conferences. He's like, well, what's your job right now? To learn the material or to be at conference? I was like, it's to learn the material.
For sure.
So it gives me these checks and balances because he checked me. He's absolutely right. I have no excuse. I've been missing his class.
He said, you paid to be here. Do you want to get your money's worth out of it or not?
You know what my smart ass said? And if he ever hears this, you know what my smart ass said? Because I'm just like all this trauma behind me, right? I was like, actually, professor, I get paid to go to school. I told Eric that, and I was like, you need to learn how to be quiet.
He's like, I pay you to be here, bro.
Yeah. I was like, oh my God, why? I can't believe I said that. But that's sometimes when I don't have a filter because I just felt attacked. But he's completely right. But that's what VetPhoenix is all about, right? Is making sure that we combine the lived experience with the academic background to develop interventions that are holistic, support veterans where they're at, but not only veterans, and that eventually we can see that society as a whole has a contributing factor to incarceration, whether it's coming from the hoods of Skid Row or the projects in Chicago or the south side of Tucson, where I come from, is that veterans, you can see it very clearly, right? They went to war, they did drugs to deal with it, they got in an accident or did a DUI, and now they're in jail because they killed somebody. But what started that, right? What was the core issue? And that's what's easy.
What started you down that path, when, why'd you take the right and the fork in the road instead of the left? Like what was that deciding factor?
Yeah. So our hope, with VetPhoenix is just to be, to start developing those networks. We're collaborators. We don't compete. There's actually a guy out here who does very similar work to us. And shout out to Homeward Bound Veterans. And I talked to him. I was like, look, man, you do the same thing. I do the same thing. You got, let's partner. Let's do this together. Let's figure out how we can.
Yeah, right. It's always better doing it like that. When you're dealing with, especially with, what your focus is, it's always good to have that partnering network, especially if there's organizations that are trying to accomplish the same mission, right? Because at the end of the day, people, what drives me nuts, man, what really drives me nuts is I had a coworker say to me years ago, "Oh, you're a vet. You must have doors swing open for you." And I looked at him. I was like, you're out of your mind. Like you're literally out of your mind. I said, you got guys, whether you do 4, 10, 20 years, whatever. So you got people coming out of the military at a certain time in their life, right? Who are now been institutionalized, right? And I say this actually all the time. When you're in the service, you're institutionalized in the same aspect like a prisoner, because you're 100%. Everything's broken down for you. You're wearing a uniform. Prisoners wear uniforms. Everything's structured by time, just like prisoners. So everything's broken up like this. And when you get pushed back out into the world, people think you were a vet. You must have had so many opportunities. No, actually, I have no fucking clue how to do any of this.
Yeah.
Right. And they look at you like you're crazy.
I have to unlearn all these other habits. I have to unlearn all this.
Yes. And it takes years and years and years and years and years. So yeah, absolutely. If you have other organizations, I think that's a great thing that you reach out to them and you want to partner with them and build those networks of trust, right? Because that's what it is. Let's build these networks of trust and do what the sole mission is to help veterans. Whatever that is, how do we help the veterans?
Yeah. Give me 1 second. My wife just pulled in. I'm still in the meeting. That's charisma, the background.
Your wife, the saint?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. She's like Saint Monica. If you know about the Catholic.
You need to listen to like minute 0 to minute 10, ma'am. He said so many beautiful things about you.
Yeah. But so I'll tell you a little bit about my wife. My wife's name is Charisma. And I married my next door neighbor in Tucson, Arizona, and she always says something that I still don't get to this day. She says, "I wish you could see me through the eyes and the way that I see you." And I'm like, damn, that's kind of deep.
Yeah. Yeah, man, you got a special one, man. You lucky, bro. Lucky.
But that's one part that we talk about VetPhoenix, that she's a deputy executive director. Her whole component of VetPhoenix is to understand how we can repair the familial connections that not only military service, but incarceration destroys, right? I have 5 kids. My oldest, who's 18, when I got back from prison, because I didn't know how to adjust properly. I was dealing with compound trauma. Like, I was trying to be that prison mentality and that military mentality. Is like, I'm the dad, I'm the general in this house, and you follow the rules. And that's not how things work. Because I'm not only am I the general in this house, I'm the guy who went to prison. I'm the guy who left you your birthday. I'm the guy who broke you, right? Just because I can buy you a nice car now and buy you some fancy things, that doesn't make things better, right? And she tried to commit suicide, and we had to hospitalize her. And luckily, she's doing great now. She's, a freshman at Cal State Long Beach, still working on some of those demons. But that's my wife's component, is really to focus on how can we make families better regardless of what they've gone through. And we actually both really do a lot of work with an organization called Center for Restorative Justice Works, and they bring families of incarcerated into prison, so they pay all the cost. I'm actually one of the board members, and
that's awesome.
Those visits, it's not like a real visit. It's a long visit. We bring food, teddy bears, bring everything to make sure that it doesn't feel like a visit. And a lot of times, it's one of the only visits that people get because it's so expensive. Now, I live in LA. Folsom's hours away. Gas, hotels is crazy expensive. Yeah. So my wife couldn't afford it, and CRJW really allowed me to reconnect with my kids while I was in prison. And to this day, literally, we just had an event a few weeks ago, and I support them a lot because we do that for other kids. But what they do that's more important, right? It's not the visit that matters. It's the bus ride. Because think about it. All these kids, their dads and moms are in prison. That's embarrassing to share that.
Yeah.
On this bus, for those few hours, they get to be themselves because everybody's dad's in prison. Everybody's mom's in prison.
They're not alone anymore. They're not alone anymore.
Not alone. And then they build these amazing friendships, and we have things across the year. But we're a family of service. I'm a servant leader, and I'm thankful for all the people that have supported me. I wouldn't be here without the people at Project Rebound, our homegirl Irene Sotelo, who really convinced me to go to Long Beach instead of UCLA, and Director Zenner, who to this day has always been one of my biggest advocates. But I think he understands why I needed to depart. And there was a really good thing, a really important thing that happened a couple of weeks ago. There was a roundtable for justice-involved veterans by Congressman Takano, who's one of the biggest advocates for our community. But one of the things that was missing from that room was us. Not me. I don't need to be in the room, but us, like the voices of those in incarceration.
Talking about people who aren't even there to talk.
And the funny thing is that a couple of those organizations reached out to me and my buddy Eric to ask us our perspectives. And we actually do some advising to some of those organizations. And it's a good start. I'm happy that Congressman Takano really brought this issue to surface of veteran justice involvement. But now, because I am the leader of VetPhoenix, I can say is do better.
Yeah.
And they are. Like, I'm actually in talks with his office, and I'll probably be at the second one. So I know that we're already making change fast.
That's awesome.
But it always has to start with a conversation. I don't want to be me knocking the work that they're doing because, hey, guess what? The conversation got in the room, man. Regardless of how it got into the room, conversation got in the room. So we'll get there eventually. But yeah, that's what we're at about VetPhoenix.
That's awesome.
We had our first move-in last week. Amazing veteran. You can see him on our socials. By the way, we asked him for consent. We asked him for permission. We're not a zoo. We don't believe in showing people stories, so we always are.
Yeah.
But that's what I'm about, man. It's just
you guys doing great work. You guys doing amazing work.
Yeah, doing God's work. That's what you're doing.
That's crazy.
We're just trying, and our motto is Nemo Residuo, leave no one behind, as well as Per Aspera Vivississimus, which means through hardships we are reborn. We have a challenge coin where you see those things on both sides, right? Because
very awesome.
No matter where you're going to come from, no matter what you've been through, no matter how dark the chapter's been in your life, when you walk into the door of VetPhoenix, you're walking into your home. You're walking into a space that's going to treat you with love. And you guys said it earlier, right? When you get out, you don't know how to do shit like in the civilian world. It's very different. Your boss is not going to yell at you if you're not there at 7:15. But if you show up late a week straight, they're going to fire you.
Yeah.
But they're not going to give you a break, right?
No, it's being a civilian's tough for sure. Tough, I enjoy working for the government because it's like a 50-50 split. But yeah, it's a wild animal, and no matter how many times I've had to go through those transition classes, like when you're done, you're done. You're at the end. I'm not listening to these people. I'm ready to get out.
Yeah.
And there's not. I'd say the Navy's getting better. You can do internships now for your last like 6 months. To kind of get you going. You kind of don't really go to work the last 6 months. You really like spend more time prepping and getting out. So there's a lot more people that are. They're looking for jobs and they're attending classes and they're kind of getting things going. So it's less door closes, next door opens. But just the trend, you're 6, 10, 12, 14, however many years in, and now you're entering a whole new different life. It's not like, I worked 20 to 30 years for a company that changed consistently. Yeah. Now I'm done. I'll go do this somewhere else in the same field with, the same ideologies. Everything is going to change. It's not just I can grow a beard or I can let my hair down. And it causes too much stress. It's a lot to go through, and it's just you. And if you're fortunate enough to have a family, so it's totally understandable. People like there's a dark hole and it's really easy to crawl into because it's comfortable, and it just gets deeper and bigger. And then knowing that there are organizations like VetPhoenix doing this kind of work, because it's, everybody's like, hey, we're here to help. Like, all right, cool. There's this whole other massive side of the house called legal.
Yeah.
Just like heart and faith and soul and donations can do a lot. But that whole legal side that somebody has to understand it. And it's wildly underrepresented as far as resources are concerned. You guys are definitely doing the lion's share out there right now.
Yeah, we're trying, man. That's all we can do. And
all you can do is try.
We have a good support. Luckily, right now we have funding. As always, donations are always wonderful to come to us. But right now, I'm glad to say that if a veteran comes into our home, they don't got to worry about their clothes, they don't got to worry about their food, and they don't got to worry about their roof.
That's awesome, man. That's awesome, Manny.
And that, a lot of times that can be like a good night's sleep and a fresh change of clothes can really change your perspective and your outlook. As you were saying, when you first got in, you're like, hey, I'm done. My life is over. But you have that one really good day after all of it. And you're like, you know what? Maybe it's not over. Maybe there is still something left going on.
And it's work. And one thing I'll say is that, you see the success now. A lot of times you see the new shiny car, but you don't see all the work that it took to get it there, right? I've been in therapy 1 to twice a week for the last 5-6 years. I'm not perfect. Me and my wife still argue sometimes. I'm pretty bad with money. That's why I have an accountant. And there's days where, I am service connected and I just don't feel like getting up.
For sure.
And that's where I see where my service compensation makes a difference, right? Because sometimes I don't have the psychological ability to be able to make a difference that day.
And what you also, it goes back to we're also human beings. Everyone's got their good days and their bad days. Manny, it's funny you say that. Yesterday, my daughter asked me, she's like, Dad, what's wrong? I said, I'm just having a day, kiddo. I didn't want to do anything yesterday.
Oh, yeah.
Right? So it happens. And you just got to give yourself a little bit of grace and realize that what you're doing and what VetPhoenix is doing is a bigger thing, right? And it's okay to have days like that, because I'm sure that just running an organization to that level and capacity is tiring, and it's okay to listen to your mind and your body and just go, I'm just going to take a day today, and it's okay that today's going to be a day that I'm not going to do anything and not going to help, but I'll get back at it tomorrow, or I might get back at it the day after. So I mean, that's understandable, man.
Dude, I can't wait for Pedro Pascal and Selma Hayek to play you and your wife in the biopic, man.
That'd be so cool.
That's one thing you'll learn about me is I've done a lot of bad things in life, really, really bad things in life. I haven't been the best dad. I haven't been the best husband, and out of respect, I would never want to re-traumatize my family. And people always say, you should write a book.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, I get that. Yeah.
I mean, it sounds cool maybe one day, but for me.
No, but I can understand where you're coming from. If you publish a book, that doesn't go away. So if there's things in the book, they might be true, but you don't always know how that's going to affect the source material. Yeah. And, and you're doing a lot of work too. You don't want to run those risks, later on. You're like, hey, is this really going to do us a lot of good? The story is great. it'd be cool if more people knew. But yeah, you see, like the movies are like, this is based on a true story. You're like, man, I wonder how much talking they had to do before they were like, yeah, we'll let you make this story.
Yeah, and one thing, my wife, my kids are finally starting to discover, but my wife had cancer while I was in prison, dude.
Boy.
So that's a lot. That's a lot to unpack, man.
My kids never knew that, and like, now they know, like, she had a diagnosis. Well, like they told us, they're like, Mom, we knew you had cancer, like, and it's like, but that's some, like, those chapters, like, we never want our kids to really know all the.
Yeah, no, I get it. Oh, trust me, I get it as a parent. I got 2 daughters of my own, man. I get it.
Yeah, so 3 toddlers if you hear them in the background. So I got busy.
Though.
Hey, I got busy after prison, right, man? I appreciate the opportunity to just share my story and.
No, man, we can't thank you enough for taking the time out of your day, especially on the here on a Sundays. We're recording on a Sunday, and
your willingness to share the level of detail about your life too is extremely appreciated.
Yeah, and joining us here at the Liberty Risk Podcast. And Manny, we can't wait to see things you guys are going to do in the future. Make sure you guys check out Manny and his organization at vetphoenix.org. And as always, we appreciate everyone listening and taking the time out here at Liberty Risk Podcast. You can find us on all podcast platforms, and as always, like, follow, and share. And thank you so much, everyone, for joining us today. And we will get back with you guys soon. Take it easy, everyone.